feeling cold against your skin. Running through the chaos, letting all the sin. Temptation in a bottle, ready for the night. Craving for the thrill, it's time to ignite. Dark desires burning bright. Echoes in the dead of night. No retreat, no looking back on this heart attack.
Hey, good evening. Happy Halloween to all of you. How are you all out there? Back to you on this Saturday. It's Saturday here, Saturday afternoon here in Melbourne. I have been watching the thunderstorms in Queensland for the last few hours. That's what I've been doing. It has been going off in Queensland, including a possible tornado up there, which is really interesting. A possible here you go, I put it on the screen for you. A possible tornado up in Queensland. Pretty rare. It doesn't happen that often here. So to see one up there, I don't know if this is on the ground or not. It's pretty far down though. I'd be surprised if it's not on the ground, this one. But yeah, you can see the small wall cloud above it. This absolutely giant storm is going through Queensland right now. Here, I can show it to you. Here's the radar. If I can make that bigger. This is the current radar loop right now. It is this monstrous supercell. It's been going for hours, and now it looks like we're getting some down south. Another set of storms firing up south of that one that had been going for at least 3 hours now. And then looks like there is some south. Let's go. Can we go that way? Hold on. Oh yeah, it looks like there's some more firing up here. So yeah, Queensland's definitely there's that big one, and it looks like there's one at the south here too. A new one. That's a new storm. But there's the big one on the top of the screen up here. That thing's an absolute monster of a storm. And it looks like yeah, another one where the original one came from. The original one came from the south, so it looks like Queensland's in for a bumpy night tonight. They have some really scary storms going on up there right now. You can't tell. You can't tell if it's on the ground. Um, even if the condensation funnel stopped here above the tree line, it can have what they call ground circulation, and it doesn't have to be condensated all the way to the ground. It just has to make contact with the ground, and you'll see that sort of suction effect. You'll see things getting tossed around, the dirt, the trees, stuff like that. So you don't necessarily have to have a condensated funnel all the way down. But being how advanced and normally when they're not touching the ground, they're a little shorter than this. So I would suspect that it probably did make some contact. If it did any damage, I don't know. No one seems to know anything right now. Everyone's sort of seeking shelter, I think, at the moment. I'm trying to see if there's any more update. Yeah, so our weather agency hasn't confirmed whether there was a tornado or not. But yeah, there you go. That's what's going on in Australia right now. This crazy radar. So they're going to have a hell of an afternoon. Like I said, there's a second one now forming to the south there. So long day for people in Queensland and northern New South Wales. They're having a hell of a storm day. So all right. Where did we leave off yesterday? We left off talking about the preliminary sentencing hearing for Lachlan Young, and we didn't get to do it yesterday because I had to go to an important meeting at 5:30 yesterday. So I got home from doing everything yesterday, jumped on for an hour, and then I had to go. And then by the time I got back last night, it was like 9 p.m. and I was like, I've been out of the house for almost 12 hours. I don't really want to. I was just so tired. I was like, I don't think I can do it. So we'll do it today instead. So I can bring you much more details about what happened over that preliminary hearing that we got to see on Monday and Tuesday, and you'll get to hear a lot more um about Hannah. What is going on? That's the wrong one. Let's get rid of that. All right. Is that the... Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry, we have too many documents open. Okay. Kim said, I saw there was a tornado in Wyoming that was only the third. Interesting. I didn't know Wyoming even got them. All right. So Hannah Maguire and the trial of Lachlan Young, that is now coming to a close. But I wanted to bring you some more information about what happened and the details discussed during that preliminary hearing on Monday and Tuesday. And I'll read you here. Yeah. So here. They say here, 8 days into Lachlan's trial for murder, the offender ended up being rearraigned and he ended up pleading guilty to the charge on the indictment, which was murder. The maximum penalty for murder is life imprisonment. By the way of background, Hannah, the deceased, was in a controlling and abusive relationship with Lachlan Young, and they call him the offender. And they say before he murdered her at the home they once shared. And then, in an attempt to cover up her murder, the offender put her body in the rear footwell of her vehicle, drove it out to a remote forest location in Scarsdale. There, using a blowtorch, he ignited the front seat of the vehicle, engulfing it, including Miss Maguire's body. Following the destruction of her body, the offender tried to cover up his involvement in her murder by staging her death to look like an S word. And they're saying here, he also attempted to delete evidence of his involvement. It was here. They're saying here, Hannah was the only daughter to her parents. She was 23 years of age at the time of her murder. Miss Maguire was the eldest of three children. She is survived by her two brothers. She was employed as an educational support officer. She also coordinated the before and after school program at her place of work, and she was studying to become a teacher at the time of her death. They're saying here she drove at the time an orange 2022 Mitsubishi Triton that belonged originally to her father, Glenn. They're saying Miss Maguire grew up in Clunes, and at the time of her death, her parents uh, worked in the local area. They're saying Lachlan Young was born 25th of May 2002. He was 21 years of age at the relevant time. He's the only son to his parents, and he has one sister. He was employed at the same school as Hannah, and no, sorry, his sister is employed at the same school as Hannah. The offender is a qualified carpenter and was employed by a local builder. They say the offender and the deceased commenced their relationship at the end of 2021. The relationship progressed quickly, and in February 2022, the deceased moved into the offender's family home. And they say from the commencement of their relationship, the offender was controlling and verbally abusive towards Hannah. Over time, his behavior also became emotionally abusive. This behavior would sometimes take place in front of others. The offender also engaged in an episode of physical violence that led to the breakdown of the relationship in March of 2024. They're saying here, Hannah's father observed the offender speaking poorly to his daughter and yelling in her face. The offender was demanding and controlling. Hannah's father spoke to the offender about his behavior towards his daughter early on in the relationship. Lachlan's boss that he was employed by the company, they would spend time with Hannah and Lachlan, and they had the opportunity to see how they interacted as a couple. And they say in their evidence that Lachlan did not treat Hannah nicely during the relationship, and that he would yell and swear at her. And the wife of Lachlan's boss said that she observed the offender not speaking nicely to Hannah during the relationship and often degraded her. She heard him say things like, "Fuck off, Hannah, you don't know anything." And they're saying here, a childhood friend of Hannah's, she would occasionally socialize with Lachlan, and she observed Lachlan to be aggressive towards Hannah and jealous of other men speaking with her. On occasion, she observed that when another male would speak with Hannah, the offender, Lachlan, would intervene and tell them to fuck off and not to speak to Hannah. He would then basically yell at Hannah over the interaction. Here, a high school friend of Hannah's who socialized with the couple from time to time, she observed Lachlan saying degrading comments to Hannah, such as "You're a fat whale." That is something that she observed during uh, their time interacting. And they say during a FaceTime phone call between the Hannah and someone else, she had the opportunity to observe the offender interact um, with Hannah. She heard him call her a fat slut and told her to work faster and to cook me dinner. They're saying here this witness grew apart from the deceased, Hannah, due to her relationship with the offender. They did not speak again until the 3rd of April 2024. Isn't that awful? So, what that demonstrates in the bit I just read to you, he never tried to hide his offending. It's not like something he tried to keep behind closed doors. We hear about how things are different at home behind closed doors. He had no qualms in just showing like doing this in front of other people. Um, I personally think from everything I've read, he never saw anything that was wrong with his behavior, and that he thought this is just how you treat women. And I believe that fully after reading everything I have about Lachlan. I I can't see any other way that that would happen. He just thinks that is normal behavior, and which probably led to Hannah's death because he just kept escalating and escalating and trying to retain that control on Hannah. And they're saying here in February of 2023, the offender and the deceased had discussed purchasing a property. The deceased was concerned that the house was too close to the offender's parents' home and was hesitant in purchasing the property. The offender was adamant that they buy that particular property. And on the 16th of February 2023, the deceased told the offender she did not want to go through with the purchase of the home. The offender got angry, told her to leave the house. So at this point in time, when they say leave the house, Hannah was living with the offender's parents and the offender in the home. The deceased packed a few items, went to her car to leave. As she walked out, she saw the offender repeatedly kick her car about 5 times, causing damage to the driver's side door. At the time, the deceased drove a red Mazda car. She left in her vehicle. The offender called her, told her to come back so that he could fix the damage. He repaired some of the damage, and then Hannah left again. After leaving the home, Hannah called her mother, telling her what had happened, and they went to the Ballarat police station to report the matter. Hannah reported what had happened, made a statement of no complaint, meaning she did not want the offender charged. She did this to keep the peace between them. The deceased later told some of her friends the offender was angry and had kicked her car door in. The deceased stayed with her parents that evening and went to work the next day. Between 5:33 p.m. on the 16th of February 2023 and 5:07 p.m. on the 17th, the offender called Hannah 129 times over Snapchat. 100. Sure. They're saying here the offender expressed frustration about losing his relationship with the deceased on the 17th of February 2023. The deceased attended work and alerted her colleagues to what had occurred the night before. As she left from work that day, the offender drove past her before conducting a U turn and pursuing the deceased in his vehicle for about 15 minutes. Hannah became so scared, calling her mother hysterical to tell her what was happening. Her mother was in Melbourne at the time and advised her to call 000. The offender managed to block the deceased vehicle with his vehicle and got out of his car to approach her. The deceased locked the doors and the offender started banging on the window, demanding her to speak with him. So he when he didn't get what he wanted, he stalked her because obviously he knew where she worked, knew what time she probably finished work for the day. And then when he didn't get his way, went down to her place of work, waited for her to get off work for the day, and then chased her in his vehicle like it was some sort of scene from Mad Max. Like these are on public roads and he's chasing after her in the vehicle, and she is hysterical, calling her mother, who isn't in the area at the time. I mean, you're getting a very interesting view of his behavior. So, Hannah told him to move his car as he was blocking traffic, and as he moved his vehicle, Hannah managed to drive off and call her friend to attend her location. The friend did come, and together they went to the Ballarat police station to report the matter. At the police station, the deceased made a statement to police about the events of the 16th and the 17th. Police issued a family violence safety notice and applied to the magistrate's court for an interim family violence intervention order. At 6:27 p.m. on the 17th of February, the offender emailed the deceased writing, "Please make contact with me, Hannah. I fucking love you. How many letters do I have to write for me to show my love to you? I know I fucked up. I accept that, but I want to fix it with you and work past that. I love you, Hannah. Please make contact with me. I can't let you walk away. I can't see how you can walk away so easily if you really love me the way you said you did." Very manipulative. At 6:50 p.m. on the 17th of February 2023, the offender was contacted by police and asked to attend the police station. He was subsequently served with a family violence safety notice which prohibited contact with Hannah. They say that night the deceased intended to stay with her friend, and whilst at the friend's home, the offender attended and commenced doing burnouts in his vehicle out the front of the property. The deceased left the address and went to stay with another friend at a different property to get away from him, obviously. On the 25th of February, the deceased and her friend went for a walk at Werribee Gorge. The friend observed the deceased to be communicating with the offender in contravention of the safety notice. The deceased told her that she was trying to be civil with him. On the 28th of February 2023, a final intervention order for 12 months was made at the court. The order prohibited family violence but allowed contact, and the order was ultimately served on Lachlan on the 5th of March of 2023. The couple broke up around this time but got back together shortly after, and despite the deceased's reservations, she and the offender went ahead with the purchase of the property that we spoke about earlier that she never wanted. They signed the purchase documents on the 16th of March 2023, and a joint mortgage financed the property. So somehow he manipulated her again after this big blow up you hear. All these things that you hear about chasing her after work, calling her 129 times, abusing her in front of other people, degrading her, and all because he didn't get his way. This seemed to somewhat stem from him not getting what he wanted in the purchase of that property, and he wore her down for a number of weeks until she finally relented, signed the property documents, got the mortgage, and they ended up getting that property. The same property where Hannah would eventually be killed. This is the same place that in the information I said, did I say it earlier? I will tell it to you at some point tonight. Hannah was strangled inside of that house and then put into the boot of that, not boot, the footwell of that vehicle, and then taken out to be set on fire. That house seems to be a big catalyst for everything that sort of went wrong in the final months of Hannah's life. It seems to be a big piece of the story. This bloody property. So this is interesting too. That property that they purchased, and I think I mentioned this before, was approximately only 70 meters from where Lachlan's parents lived. And this was one of the reasons that Hannah didn't want the property because she'd already lived with the family previously and she knew what it would be like if they lived only 70 meters away from his family. I can understand, and my personal opinion would be she would feel very boxed in. Like everyone would, if in a negative situation, it would feel like she had no support, that no one would be on her side. And being the fact that his parents are so close, she would feel very isolated if something went wrong because all he has to do is go cry to his parents, and of course they're going to back him up. So um yeah, I think that would be an awful feeling for her, but somehow he got her to sign those documents. So all right, give me 1 second. I need to one sec. We're gonna have a break for 1 second. Hold on. All right, I'm back. Um, on the 8th of February, so we're like a year later now, on the 8th of February 2024, so almost like a year after all this went down, the offender and deceased were exchanging messages about their joint bank account. The offender removed Hannah from the joint bank account, having learnt she held a personal savings account. So he's getting very upset that she has her own personal bank account with some money in there. Okay, I think that's a great idea. I think all people in relationships should have their own bank account. You should have some sort of, some sort of independent financial type help for yourself. Should anything go wrong? Should you be trapped somewhere? Should your partner be incapacitated for some reason where you can't sign off on the joint account? So many reasons you might need it. I don't think that's a negative, but for Lachlan, apparently that is. He says, or it says here, he became aggressive during the interaction with one message reading, "Stop ducking annoying me and pestering me then, cunt. How many times have you been fucking told, huh?" And it continues, said, "It's gonna be too late one day and it'll all be over if you don't start listening, cunt." Sorry about the language, that's what it says here. The deceased subsequently agreed to put all her money into the joint bank account. On March 2nd, 2024, the deceased went to the Castle Yards Hotel with the offender for an evening out. During the night, they got into an argument, and the offender aggressively grabbed hold of Hannah's arm and shook her while talking in her face as she cried. The deceased called her friend, and told her that the offender was yelling at her and making derogatory comments, and she says that it was being done in front of her friends. A friend came to the hotel and took Hannah and took her home. On the 15th of March 2024, the offender went out with friends to a concert at Ballarat. He was drinking all night and into the next day, which caused further friction in the relationship. On 17th of March 2024, the offender and deceased got into an argument at their home address. During the argument, the offender assaulted Hannah and her necklace was broken during the altercation. Hannah also later told her friend that he punched a wall during this altercation. Then they're saying Hannah phoned her friend and told her the offender had hit her and that her necklace had broken when it got caught on his hand as he walked past. The friend drove to the house and together they loaded Hannah's belongings into the car and into Hannah's vehicle. Hannah and the friend then went to play netball before returning to the home. Hannah told that friend that she wanted to try and sort it out with Lachlan, and the friend implored her to leave, but Hannah decided to remain at the property. It's very sad. It's very sad that her friends seemed to know exactly what was going on and just weren't able to figure out a way to get through to her earlier. Or I think it's very difficult to help someone when they're in this type of situation. Hannah did eventually break off the relationship. She did eventually figure out that it wasn't worth it and that she deserved to be treated better. But that ended up being the sort of final thing that Lachlan was losing control on her, and he took it so far to end up killing her over it. So, what we hear, the statistics tell us that the most dangerous time for a woman is when she is leaving a relationship. And in this particular case between Lachlan and Hannah, that proves to be very true. Marjorie says, "Up late on Halloween, All Saints Day. Hope you are all doing well." Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. That is very kind. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, happy Halloween to you guys too. Rachel said, "More reason for him to act like an ass. He's probably got a drinking problem too." He does. Very much so. He drinks a lot. Um, no, he has a job. Like we said before, he's a carpenter, trained carpenter. He worked with a company, and I'm just trying to save some people's details. So when you hear me say things like the friend and the work colleague and the boss, it's because I don't want to give out their names. I don't want to put their names into public. They've gone through enough. They don't. I don't see the need to have to further put them on the internet. Um, So we'll continue. After the friend implored Hannah to leave, Hannah decided to remain at the home with Lachlan. That same afternoon, Hannah phoned her mother to tell her that she planned to leave Lachlan. She told um she told her mother that she had packed a bag which contained her essentials, that she would stay the night, then leave for work the next morning and not return to the home. On the 18th of March, Hannah attended work and parked her vehicle out of sight in case Lachlan came looking for her. When she arrived at work, she discovered the offender had removed her house keys and two sets of car keys from her bag. The deceased called her mother and told her what had happened. Her mother told Hannah to withdraw money from their joint bank account and to leave the offender's money in the account. She also advised her daughter to pay any bills in her name, then remove herself from the accounts. Subsequently, Hannah made three transfers from their joint account to her personal account, and they're saying here, and whilst at work, the offender told his boss, this is Lachlan. Lachlan told his boss that Hannah had left him and he was leaving work. He did not return to work until the 25th of March 2024. Later, on the 18th of March 2024, the offender made a transfer of $4,607 from their joint account to his personal savings account with the reference "house is gone." There you go, house is gone. From this point, Hannah moved back in with her parents and no longer resided with the offender at that property. On the 18th of March, the deceased messaged the offender to retrieve her property. That evening, the deceased called a friend and told her that she'd ended her relationship with the offender. And during the conversation, she disclosed that the offender had grabbed her necklace and snapped it off her. Later that night, the deceased was conversing with her friend, another friend, over Snapchat, where she told her the relationship was over. So multiple people knew that Hannah had made the choice to finally break free of this abusive relationship with Lachlan. You know, it takes a lot to do it. It's a very hard thing to do. You already heard she had friends that had implored her not to ever go back to him. And she finally took that step of breaking away. Unfortunately, like we know now, it would end up with her death. But I'll preface that with saying everyone has the right to leave a relationship, and at at no time should anyone be hurt for their choices like that. And I it sounds so trivial when we talk about it in this particular context because we have hindsight and we're sort of being saturated with the information from the trial. But I don't think it makes it any less that one of the big things here was Hannah was basically killed because she chose to move on with her life without Lachlan. That's it. That's the only reason she was killed because she no longer wanted to be with him. And that cost her her life. So it's very, very sad. Here, let's see here. All right. During the relationship that she spoke with her friend on Snapchat, during that conversation, Hannah disclosed that the offender had kicked her, punched her, and thrown her to the floor. And following the breakdown of the relationship, Hannah told another work friend that they had broken up. She told her friend that her necklace had been broken during the altercation. Following the breakup, the work friend noticed that Hannah's behavior had changed. She would start coming to work earlier and parking her car out of sight. She told the work friend that she was fearful and scared of the offender. In the morning of the 19th of March 2024, Lachlan used his phone to Google how to remove someone from a CCTV camera and a further search of how to find out if other devices are connected. The cameras were set up at the property. The offender held the ability to operate the cameras. Hannah only had the ability to view the cameras but could not alter them. The same day, the offender's Snapchat indicated he was in Echuca at the time, and the deceased used that as an opportunity to go to the home and retrieve her property. When she arrived at the property with her parents and no keys to the property, she gained access by crawling through a window. Once inside the home, she noticed the offender had used a couch to barricade the front door shut. This is a type of childish individual that we're talking about here. What kind of absolute, oh, it's just so many words, but what is this? Are you a bikie? Are you trying to stop the police from getting inside your home? Is that what's going on? Are you a drug lord? Is that what's going on? You are barricading your door like you're worried the Raptor squad is going to come through your door and arrest you for selling kilos of coke. Not a freaking 80-pound girlfriend. Like, what is going on in this guy's mind? When I leave to go away, I'm going to put a couch up against the front door in case my ex-girlfriend tries to come and take her property. Her property. Not his, her property. What a twisted individual Lachlan Young is. So she ended up gaining access by crawling through a window. Once inside the home, Hannah noticed the offender had used the couch. Yep. The offender's Snapchat account indicated he was driving towards Sydney, and that afternoon indicated he was driving, towards Sydney. That afternoon, Hannah met with the manager of the Commonwealth Bank, and she made changes to the joint account, which triggered automatic notifications to Lachlan. 2 minutes after receiving that email notification, Lachlan complained to his mother about what was occurring. On Wednesday, the 20th, Hannah, with the assistance of her mother, contacted a solicitor. And then at work, she spoke with a person at the workplace. She told that person the offender was being very aggressive and threatening to come to the workplace. That person at the workplace organized for external doors of the school to be locked and for staff to be aware in case there was an issue. The school did a good job of trying to protect her in the workplace. They did a good job of trying to help her. They're saying here Hannah attended the house to retrieve her belongings, and as soon as she drove into the driveway, Lachlan drove in behind her, boxing her car in. He started begging for her to come inside, to come home, and come inside the property. Hannah went inside and felt unsafe. She told the offender what she thought he wanted to hear, and she went back to her parents' house and messaged him that she would not be returning. On Thursday, the 21st of March, Hannah attended the court and applied for an intervention order against Lachlan. That order was granted. It allowed contact between the pair but prohibited family violence. And yeah, so following that order being made, the offender and Hannah exchanged messages. During the exchange, the offender expressed concern that Hannah had contacted a lawyer or solicitor, and that he could not afford to also engage with one. Throughout the exchange, the offender sent messages imploring Hannah to return to the home and told her that he wanted to marry her and have a baby with her. Okay. On the 22nd of March, The offender and Hannah continued to exchange messages, and at some point, Hannah agrees to attend the property that evening. She told the offender that she wanted to park her car in the backyard when she came to the home and did not want his family to know that she was there. On the 23rd of March, Hannah sent Hannah a very long message via Snapchat confirming the relationship was over and requesting that he give her space so that she could focus on herself. Later that same day, Hannah had a chance encounter with a friend from school. The Hannah told that person that she was sorting out the property with the help of a solicitor and that she was glad to be out of the relationship with Lachlan. All right. I'm going to leave it there so we can have a break for like 2 seconds. And I don't know what to tell you except for it seems like a living nightmare, and when you hear these type of details, you go, "Okay, if this is happening at like 21, very young, and this is such a high profile case, how many more women and some men, how many more people is it happening to that we don't know about?" And that's the scary thing to me is while Hannah's case has had a lot of publicity, how many people are going through this every day where no one else knows about it, and there's no other people that have any clue to what is occurring in their life. And for a period of time, a lot of people didn't know fully what was going on with Hannah. Hannah hid some of it. So it wasn't until she broke up with Lachlan that she told really anybody about the physical abuse. She told a couple of occasions where he'd grabbed her and things like that, but not with the punching and kicking and breaking her necklace and things like that. She didn't disclose that until after that relationship had come to an end. So. What is the possible punishment for Lachlan Young? I don't want to misspeak. I thought it was 25 years, but I just want to double check. Okay. So yeah, it could be that. Um, the standard sentence for murder in Victoria is 25 years in jail, but the maximum penalty a court can give out is life behind bars. Now, that is sort of what was going on this week. His team was advocating for his young age and the fact that he had pled guilty after 8 days of trial. I mean, it's not for me to decide, but I'm not sure how much that should give you in the way of a discount. But definitely they will look at that he's a young guy and that he has a chance of rehabilitation and a life outside of jail. Personally, I don't think that is right, but it's not my job to sentence people. That is up to Justice Elliott to do, and that he can work within the laws that we have, right? That's all he can do. Rachel said 25 years seems so wrong. He could be out before he's 50. He could be what is it? Muffin. Hold on. My cat is here. Hey Muff, come on. He could be what is he 20, so it could be like 48, 48, something like that. Yeah, so he could be something like oh my god, 48. Sorry, here we go. Look at this. Sorry, giant cat doesn't like me talking on the microphone, and as soon as he hears it, he's like, "I have to go sit on dad's lap. I have to go annoy. I have to go be annoying every time." Um, yeah. Let's see. That's a long time to put up with it, Kelly. I think that's an awful life that she has. It's very sad. So the points they brought up were his young age, his guilty plea, difficult upbringing, and emotional dysregulation during the breakdown of the relationship. I find that very difficult. When you have someone who has the prior history that Lachlan does in the way his behavior was with treating Hannah throughout their relationship, how can you then try and paint that this is some sort of momentary dysfunction or dysregulation brought on by the end of the relationship when it shows in the history of Lachlan presented during court that he had this behavior well beforehand. And I find that strange that somehow his lawyer can advocate for that um, when yeah, I think that he's already indicated it's not a snap thing. It's a well ingrained behavioral trait that Lachlan has. I mean, we heard it. He punched her, threatened her, called her names, broke her down, disrespected her in front of her friends, disrespected her in front of her own family, including her father, who ended up having to pull Lachlan aside and say, "Don't speak to my daughter like that." You know, I struggle with that here in this particular case. All right, yeah, let me move down a bit. We've heard a lot about the past history. Yeah, yeah. Give me a sec. I'm just trying to move down here. All right. So they moved to the day of I'll move down to the day of the offense and then I'll wrap it up on this particular part. So at 2:30 a.m. on the 5th of April, an argument between Hannah and Lachlan escalated and became physical. Hannah went to the bathroom and the offender followed her. He entered the bathroom and started pushing and shoving Hannah before throwing her to the bathroom floor. Then, with an intent to kill, the offender put his hands around Miss McGuire's neck and strangled her for some time. Miss McGuire lost consciousness and died on the bathroom floor of the home they once shared together. The offender then called his acquaintance or friend, Mr. O'Keefe, at 2:53 a.m. to meet him on the corner in 10 minutes. At approximately 3:03 a.m., Mr. O'Keefe drove his distinctive black Nissan to the corner as previously arranged to meet with Lachlan. He deliberately left his mobile phone at home, and whilst Mr. O'Keefe waited on the corner, the offender called his phone 5 times which all went unanswered. After waiting a little while, Mr. O'Keefe returned home and went inside. Meanwhile, Lachlan put the body of Hannah into the rear passenger footwell of her orange Mitsubishi Triton, which was parked at the rear of the home. The rear motion activated camera was triggered at 3:19 a.m. in the morning, and the CCTV recording would later be deleted by Lachlan from his mobile phone to conceal what it depicted. Lachlan drove from his house and towards Mr. O'Keefe about a minute after he returned home. Mr. O'Keefe heard a honk outside. He checked his phone and saw the missed calls from Lachlan. Having heard the honk, he went outside and saw Lachlan driving an orange Triton. That's Hannah's vehicle. Apparently, the deceased body was in the rear footwell of the vehicle, out of view to Mr. O'Keefe. The offender asked where he should take the vehicle, and Mr. O'Keefe said he did not know. The offender told him to follow him. Mr. O'Keefe got into his Nissan Navara, his mobile phone left at the home. He followed Lachlan away from the street. As they drove, the convoy of vehicles were captured on various cameras traveling out of the area to the Scarsdale area. And in the Scarsdale area, they're saying it's approximately 15 kilometers from where they left. At the time of the travel, Lachlan left his phone at home as well and took Hannah's phone with him. On the way out of the area towards Scarsdale at 3:27 a.m., the offender used Hannah's phone to send a message to his own, which read, "I'm not coming." As the offender reached Victoria Road off State Forest Road, he stopped about 300 meters away from the intersection and spoke to Mr. O'Keefe. He asked Mr. O'Keefe if he should torch the car or dump it. Mr. O'Keefe told him to dump it because it could start a bushfire. Mr. O'Keefe then watched as the offender drove the vehicle into some trees at a low speed before getting out of the car. He told Mr. O'Keefe to turn his vehicle around, and as Mr. O'Keefe looked in the rearview mirror, he saw the offender holding a yellow-colored blowtorch to the front two seats of the Triton. The offender held the blowtorch on the vehicle for a few minutes to ignite the vehicle before getting into the front passenger seat of Mr. O'Keefe's car. Once inside Mr. O'Keefe's car, the offender directed Mr. O'Keefe to wait for the car to light up and handed him $45. They had not discussed any money prior to this point. The vehicle became engulfed in flames, and Mr. O'Keefe drove away from the area, traveling back the way they came. CCTV cameras again along the route, capturing just the one car returning. Shortly into the drive, the offender asked Mr. O'Keefe to pull over. He did, and the offender pulled out Hannah's iPhone and started writing a text message to Hannah's mother. He stopped typing and said, "Let's go." The message written by Lachlan to Hannah's mother at 3:43 a.m. purports to be an S-word letter to Hannah's mum. So he tried to make it seem like Hannah had done it herself. It reads as follows: "I'm sorry, Mum. I thought this was the right decision. I tried to heal and cope with it all, but I'm not okay. I thought leaving was the best decision. I tried to reconnect with people, and I tried sleeping with someone else to try and help me move on, but I couldn't do it. I tried messaging Locke, but he doesn't want anything to do with me now. I have sent a message. Please check in on him. This is going to break his heart." What daughter, S word or not, would write anything like that to their mother? Who would write that to their mum about saying, "I tried sleeping with someone else to help me move on"? Who would write that? Not only if this was a casual conversation on a Thursday with your own mum, but during the last message of your life, supposedly, ever written, this is what you choose to be a topic of conversation in that message. I don't think so. I think, and look, Hannah's mum picked up really quickly that that wasn't her daughter. She knew very quickly that that wasn't Hannah. And yeah, like that reads exactly as it is. And I know we have hindsight here, so it makes my job easier, but it reads like a jealous boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. You know, you can just tell that's not Hannah. It reads like Lachlan being very controlling, jealous, trying to say things like she was sleeping with someone else. All the things an ex boyfriend would say, not a young girl to her own mum. Yeah, it's very obvious. Very obvious. All right, I need a drink. Hold on. Yeah, he's not a very clever guy. So yeah, I don't know how that works if he wanted to make it believable. Yeah. Look, being clever is not one of the words I've seen associated with Lachlan in any of these documents. No one here has ever said, he's such a bright guy and super intelligent. It's a shame that he had such a bad thing with women and, being very abusive. I don't think I read that even once in any of the documents I have about Lachlan. I no one has put forward that as evidence to his character. I think we get a lot of very negative things. So Hannah's mum replied to those messages saying things like, "What? Where are you? You're not making sense. You're not going back to him." Lachlan then sent a further text which read, "I tried to go back, but he doesn't want anything to do with me. I've made the wrong choice. I have thrown away everything." Hannah's mum returned text trying to ascertain what was being said and where her daughter was located, saying things like, "What the F? You haven't thrown away anything. You made exactly the right choice. Where are you? Answer me now. Hannah, answer me. I'm getting in the car and coming for you, coming to find you. Hannah, Hannah, you need to answer my call. Where are you? I'm coming to find you. You're at Lockie's, aren't you? You can't live the way you're living, being spoken to like shit and treated like crap." And then she said, "Remember why you left in the first place? You were doing fine without him. In fact, I've never seen you look happier. I'm on my way now. Where are you so we can talk properly? Hannah, I'm at Lockie's. Where are you? I've called police and I'm heading to the station now. Please don't do anything silly. We will come and find you. Don't throw away your life and everything you've worked hard for Lockie." At 3:44 a.m., the offender using Hannah's mobile sent a message to his own phone, which was still at the property. That message, purporting to be an S word note, read, "I'm sorry, Locke. Please look after the house and the dogs for the rest of your life. I love and miss you dearly. I'm sorry this all went down this way. I'm sorry this all went down this way. I wish there was a way of fixing it. Goodbye, Locke." Sounds like something out of like a teenage drama. At 3:47 a.m., the offender logged into a Commonwealth Bank app on Hannah's phone and transferred $2,000 to Hannah's mum and $5,000 to his own account. At 5:53 a.m., Mr. O'Keefe dropped the offender back to his home and then returned inside. Once inside his own home, Mr. O'Keefe deleted footage from the home CCTV cameras from his property and then went to bed. Not being able to reach her daughter, Hannah's mother drives to the area, arriving on Lockie's doorstep. Lachlan uh, arrives on his doorstep at 4:48 a.m. The offender heard knocking and phoned his mum before answering the door. His parents made their way to his house and then opened the door. Um, Hannah's mum asked if the offender knew where Hannah was, and he told her that he did not, and that she could look around if she wanted. He told her the deceased had called him on the way to Ballarat last night, and he had told her that he did not want her coming over. The offender then feigned surprise at a text message on his phone, purporting to be from Hannah, but was instead sent by him saying to Hannah's mum, "Oh, she messaged me." He also feigned surprise at the bank transfer into his account. He then continued his ruse by calling and messaging Hannah's mobile, as well as contacting some of her friends and associates, asking if they knew where she was, stating that he would ruin this town if someone had done something to her. In one instance, he accused her friend of hiding Hannah from him. Meanwhile, the body of Hannah lay in the footwell of a burnt out Mitsubishi Triton in bushland out at Scarsdale. Concerned that Hannah might have hurt herself, her mother contacts 000 to report her daughter missing before attending the police station. Meanwhile, the offender pretended to look for Hannah at her workplace before meeting with Hannah's mom at the police station. At 5 a.m., the offender called his boss's wife and spoke to the offender on the phone. The offender asked his boss if he had seen or heard from Hannah and said that she'd taken off and transferred all the money from her bank account. At 6 a.m., Hannah's friend woke up to discover that he'd been removed as a friend from Hannah's Snapchat. At 6:50 a.m., the offender left for his work in his white Mazda. He had with him at the time Hannah's mobile phone. See, I tell you here, he's not a very clever guy. So you're smart enough to leave your mobile phone at home during your crime, but you take Hannah's mobile phone with you to work. You know what we say on this channel? You don't have to be smart to commit murder. You don't. I mean, I don't understand how you try and think ahead by leaving your phone at home and then carry around the person that you've killed. You carry around their phone on your person. What do you think that phone is going to show when they put it through forensics? It's going to show that you've had it for the entire time. Slow clap. You get a slow clap. Good work. Um, yeah. What the hell? So they're saying here, meanwhile, at 9:50 in the morning, a local resident on his way to take his dog for a walk in the state forest says he was driving on Victoria Road approaching the intersection of State Forest Road when he noticed a burnt out vehicle on the side of the road. He noticed it was smoldering and burning, so he called 000. At 10 a.m., police arrived at the scene, followed by CFA firefighters. The vehicle was severely heat damaged, and the fire had apparently self-extinguished. So no more stuff to burn anymore. A large tree log was up against the rear passenger door. On the driver's side, there was also a stump up against the front door of the vehicle. There was nothing in front of the vehicle that would have stopped the forward momentum of the car. There you go. Cops know someone put it there. Firefighters were the first to notice the human remains in the rear passenger footwell of the vehicle, leading Senior Constable to approach the vehicle and noted human bones in the rear footwell and established a crime scene. The family of Hannah was subsequently notified that the remains were likely to be those of Hannah. At 1:12 p.m. Following the discovery of Hannah's body on the 5th of April, the police called the offender to arrange a time to speak with him. He was already aware that Hannah had been located and that she was not alive. At 1:53 p.m., the offender attended a police station and was formally advised that Hannah's vehicle and remains had been located. At 3:40 p.m., the offender attended Ballarat police station with his father and provided a statement to police. The account he gave in the statement is demonstrably false, so it's not real. Amongst other things, the accused told police that Miss Maguire wanted to come over for the night, but he had told her that she could not and that she needed to make her mind up and stop lying to her mother. He said that Miss Maguire had reacted badly to this, and throughout the statement making process, the offender had had reference to the uh, I don't, it basically says that during the statement making process, he had talked about the CCTV cameras at his home. So when he kept bringing this up in the interview, police asked to view those cameras. So they wanted to see what footage was there, what had been saved, any activations of the cameras, that type of thing. The police noted that there was no activations of the cameras between 11:29 p.m. on the 4th of April and 4:13 a.m. on the 5th of April 2024. When asked about this, the offender gave a false answer claiming that there were just too many activations and that the system would start to override itself and the clips from that time had been deleted. Police also viewed the offender's message thread with Hannah on his phone. A comparison of the text messages on the offender's phone with the phone record showed that all communication between Hannah and the offender over text message had been deleted, with no messages on the message thread since the 27th of March 2024 until the purported S-word text on the 5th of April at 3:44 a.m. The offender had deleted all recent contact that he had had with Hannah in an attempt to hide his contact with her. At 4:32 p.m., the offender returned to the foyer while the statement was being formatted. Whilst in the foyer of the police station, the offender Googled, "Can you find deleted files on a CCTV camera?" I just shake my head. I really do. You know, there's some people in life that always think they're the smartest person in the room, and I get that vibe from Lachlan. But he does the dumbest things over and over and over again. Why would you Google that in the effing police station? That's like saying, how do you get away with murder on your phone? Like, what are you doing? It boggles my mind the things that people do. It really does. Like, it's just, if it wasn't so serious, if it wasn't such a tragic story of a young girl losing her life, it would be a comedy of errors. But, you know, hey, we don't want people getting away with murder. So I guess we can be thankful that they are not smarter. Um, yeah. Lachlan left, ended up leaving the police station at 5:01 p.m. He returned to his home. Friends came to the family home to show their support for the believed S word of his girlfriend. The offender drank and mixed with his family and friends while uh, he basically told them the story that Hannah had S worded. The offender sent a Snapchat photo to his neighbor, or a Snapchat, advising that Hannah had passed away peacefully. Peacefully? Is that the word you use for someone that S words? Oh, this person, they S worded, but it was peaceful. No, I don't know. Something tells me that it's very traumatic. It's a lot of turmoil. Uh, Peaceful is not the word I think of. I think word association might not be a strong suit for Lachlan. They're saying here later that evening, Mr. O'Keefe learnt that Hannah was no Mr. Later that evening, Mr. O'Keefe, he's the guy who drove with Lachlan out to the location where they burnt the car. Later that evening, he learnt that Hannah was dead. He contacted the offender, aka Lachlan, and told him that he needed to see him Lachlan told him to attend the family home, and Mr. O'Keefe arrived around 9:20 p.m. There was family and friends with Lachlan, and at some point after Mr. O'Keefe's arrival, um, the offender was what? Sometime after Mr. O'Keefe arrived at the home, the offender was alone, urinating on a back fence. Mr. O'Keefe went to comfort him and he said to Lachlan, Hannah better not have been in that fucking car. The offender told him that she was, but that was when she was already dead and that she was suffocated. At 11:06 p.m., Mr. O'Keefe left and returned home. Another friend was at the house to console Lachlan. She had earlier received a Snapchat from Lachlan that read, Hannah passed away peacefully this morning. He likes to use this peacefully word a lot for someone who seems to have had a traumatic death consumed in fire. Seemed to be very peaceful. Yes, peaceful for a bonfire, not so much for a S word. Very strange description of what peaceful might be. They say here, while that friend was at the home, she witnessed the offender's father tell Mr. O'Keefe that Hannah had S-worded herself by burning herself in the car. Again, peaceful by self, immolation. I not peaceful. That doesn't make a lot of sense. That friend observed Mr. Keefe respond, "Are you serious?" and say that he had not heard anything about that. Later that evening, that same friend spoke with Lachlan. He told her that Hannah was supposed to stay at his home on the Thursday night, April the 4th, but he had drinks with the boys and her mother would not let her come over. Um, the offender's cousin was also at the home consoling Lachlan. She spoke with the offender, who told her that he and Hannah had been on and off over the 2 weeks and fighting a lot over social media, and that she had moved back to her parents' home. He then, uh, okay. All right, I'm going to leave that. We've already heard all that. It's just basically a retelling of the night's events. So I'm not going to go through it all. Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. All right, all right, all right. Hey, what's going on with this radar? Let's see. Not much. Looks like the storms are dying out. I'm glad Queensland, well, they probably still got battered, but they're saying storms will continue for the rest of the night. Jeez, poor Queensland. Poor Queensland, they're having a hard day. Marlene said he is spoiled and self-centered. Definitely seems like the boy who doesn't understand what responsibility is at all. All right, let me see where we can get up to. All right, I'm not going to read through that. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if we can get to another point. So, an autopsy examination was conducted on Hannah on the 6th of April 2024, and that was by Dr. Joanna Glengarry. The examination revealed that what was left of Hannah was 120 centimeters in length and weighed just 13 kilos. The remains had experienced severe thermal damage and effect. Dr. Glengarry was not able to conduct an assessment on the neck muscles, the hyoid bone, or the larynx. as those tissues were absent due to thermal effect, but Dr. Glengarry noted there was no soot in the airways of Hannah. So we know, being in true crime, we know what that means. That means that most likely she was dead before the fire, because if you're alive and you can take breaths into your lung, into your airway, you'll most likely inhale small particles of ash and debris from the fire. And if that is not present, it's not perfect. There have been cases where people have been on unconscious and breathing slowly, and the fire was so severe that they've been overcome with fire so quickly that they've died, and there's been no soot in the airway. But most of the time, if they don't find it, it means that the person was dead beforehand. So here, Dr. Glengarry was unable to ascertain a cause of death. Toxicology results revealed no carbon monoxide was detected in the blood. There's a second uh, positive reinforcement here for the idea that she was not alive at the time of the fire. No carbon monoxide in the blood means she didn't inhale any of the carbon monoxide. So it means she was not alive at the time. They're saying here there was no cyanide in any level in her body. Toxicology results no presence of rehypnol or any type of those type of drugs in her body. Dr. Glengarry opined that it is possible for injury to cause death without associated skeletal trauma, and that the toxicology results combined with the no soot in the airways or lungs indicate that the deceased was dead before the fire. I already told you that, but yeah, that's what that means. So, yeah, very sad. How sad. Uh, all right. All right. All right. I think I'm going to leave it there for a minute. I think we've read through a giant portion of it. Kelly says, does he have any previous DV background? Um, I don't know. I'm not sure. So I can't confirm any of that for you. Rachel said, what did Marlene say? Oh, that he is spoiled and self-centered. I would agree. I would agree. I don't know if he's spoiled as such, more like someone who's never had to take any personal responsibility for anything in his life. I think that is more a fitting description anyway. Yeah. So if we go down here, so that's the background, most of it. It's not all of it, but it's most of it. Um, Just trying to find our next little bit that I want to read out to you. So you've heard the horrible story of what happened to Hannah, right? That's like the majority of it that I just read to you. Oh, hold on. All right. Actually, there's one more bit that we have to read. Okay, one more bit. Okay. So Lachlan was being interviewed by police, right? During a break in that interview process, they placed him in a holding cell at the Ballarat police station where two undercover operatives were deployed and put into his cell. The operatives struck up a conversation with him where he continued to lie about Hannah attending his house and that she had committed S word by burning herself in the car. Um, yeah, so interesting. So even when they tried to put undercover people in there to try extract information. He was still lying about what happened to Hannah. Yeah, I can't report on that yet. Okay. Interesting though. Interesting the tactics they sometimes use to extract information from someone they think is a um prime suspect type thing. Okay. So Hannah's father gave a impact statement, and I don't want to read all of it. I think they're his words to tell people, but I just want to read you a couple of little bits here because I want to show you what the loss to the family is like and what they're going through. And he says things like here, instead of watching her grow to become an incredible woman that she was becoming, he says here, I had to bury her. I had to pick out a coffin. Instead of a graduation or wedding dress, I will, and he says that's what he had to do. I had to pick out a coffin instead of a graduation or a wedding dress. So instead of a moment of celebration, he had to have this very, you know, awful moment of having to bury his own daughter and having to pick out her coffin to be buried in. He says, I'll never hear her laugh again. I'll never see her walk through our front door. I will never get another hug or a simple "I love you, Dad." He goes on to describe how it's a devastating loss to their family, and that you know their family is struggling to come to terms with the loss of their much loved daughter and uh, sibling. So yeah, it's awful. I don't want to read it all again. I feel like it's his words to sort of talk about, but I just wanted to give you that little bit because I think it encapsulates very quickly what it must be like to be multiple family members of Hannah's, and um, yeah, just really really sad. It's not very nice. Yeah, a lot of the family talk about how there was supposed to be a lot of proud moments coming for Hannah where they would get to enjoy their life and celebrate these milestones throughout life, and that these will never happen now because she had been taken from the family in this violent crime done by someone who was supposed to love her. Um, yeah, so awful, awful. A lot of the family talk about how they think of Hannah every day and think of missed opportunities, things that they were going to go off and do together that now can't take place, and things that they might have been planning between them, that type of thing. Um, yeah, let me see if there's anything else I can. Yeah, even people that she worked with talk about how kind, thoughtful, and such a vibrant person that Hannah was, and that she brought light into the lives of those around her. And they said here that losing her is an absence felt every single day. And they said that there are no words that can fully express the heartbreak experienced since the loss of Hannah. Yeah, awful. I've gone through a few victim impact statement for a few different cases now, and it sort of throws it over when you're going through a trial and you get a lot of this type of information that you end up reporting on. It's very easy to get stuck into the mindset of just report the information in the news and oh, look at this detail that we've not heard before. You have to make sure you get that out and tell people about it. But when you hear about the other parts of it, like the victim impact statements, it flips that and you go back to remembering that there is a family here who are missing their loved one. 1 second, guys. All right, sorry about that. Rachel said the way he treated her was just vile and disgusting. I agree. I think if there's one thing we can take from Hannah's death is that we need to do more to understand when this is going on in people's lives and try and, well, there's only so much you can do. If someone's going to kill someone, it's very difficult to try and stop them. But um, maybe there's more that could have been done to help Hannah. I don't know, but she was almost there. She had left. She had cut off financial ties between her and Lachlan. She had paid her share and she had taken her names off the bills, got out of the property, got some of her things back, and her one fatal flaw was being too kind, and that was her downfall, was heading back to that property and falling into the trap of Lachlan again. And it so happened that this time, instead of just beating her up, instead of just degrading her, he went all the way and decided that this time he would do the ultimate and kill her. And it's a pattern we have seen time and time again with these type of DV cases where uh, the offender slowly traverses through this sort of roadmap of starting small and then it gets worse, and then as they lose control, they somewhere in their brains they think they need to do more and more violent things to keep the person under control. And it seems like when they're just about to lose all of that control forever, these women get killed. And it's something we need to do a lot more about and try and make sure there's no more Hannahs, because we read far too many of these stories, far too many. I think this year alone, I've done countless. I couldn't even tell you a number, maybe 50 of them. Maybe more. It's really awful. But I can tell you, reading and listening to the impact statements this week, you see the spider web of people in the community and afar, so outside of the Ballarat community and surrounding areas that are impacted by the crime of one person. So the crime of one person, Lachlan, and you hear of how many people stretching out on that spider web are affected by Hannah being killed. And it's people you wouldn't even really think of. And it's like friends they met or family friends and people that knew her in throughout school, and she met this person through X, Y, and Z, and they became friends, and they knew each other for 5 years, and then each of these people is another section to go down where there's people affected by the crime. And that's what I took away from the victim impact statements, is that a lot of the time we just think of the immediate family, but if there's one thing I've learned through the Aaron Patterson, through this one, through a couple of others, when listening to these victim impact statements, it just seems to go on and on and on and on, the amount of people who are in some way affected, some greater than others, but all of them nonetheless are affected by Hannah not being here, and in the way that she was taken from the world. So yeah, that's probably the big thing I noticed. Yeah. So the bit that I read out to you before had a lot more details than the first time we tried to go through this about 3.5 months ago. And I think it really shines a light on how terrifying those last couple of hours of well, it was probably terrifying for a long period of time, but how really terrifying those last couple of hours must have been for Hannah. I mean, she ran away to that bathroom to try and shield herself from Lachlan, and for, her life to be taken so quickly after that. Um, Chipmunk says kids need to be taught this stuff in school, since many aren't teaching their kids to grow up to be healthy adults. Yes, I agree. There is definitely some responsibility with some other people who I'm not going to mention. Rachel? I think we saw Rachel here before. Hold on. I'm checking the list of people. Yeah, Rachel was here. Right here. Right there. So she was here. Hey, Lux, how are you, my friend? Kelly says, my younger years, I spent a month and a half in a battered woman shelter. I learned a lot about the cycle of DV through group and single counseling while I was there. Sadly, I haven't seen much change. Yeah, I would agree. Rachel said, I think we all need stronger DV laws and more protection for victims. I'm just not sure how to do that to make a difference. You know, oh, by the way, Kathy, thank you. Oh, how do I make this go on here? There we go. Kathy gave someone a membership. Say thank you to Kathy um for if you got the membership. It's very kind of her. Now I lost my thought about what I was going to say. Uh, no, I lost it. I had a good reply to Rachel, and now I can't remember. Nope, it disappeared. All right. So that is sort of your roundup. That is sort of your roundup of what happened over those 2 days. Actually, do we have a bit more? Hold on, we might have a bit more. We may have only done one part. Where's my other notes? Da, 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 da. All right. Give me 1 second. We may have a second thing to do. Hold on. All right. I do have something from the other day. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. I'm in my other set of notes. So Mr. Casement, who is the representation for Lachlan Young, on day 2, and I was trying to tell you a bit about this the other day, but he talks about the type of things of why Lachlan deserves a shorter sentence, and I'll bring it to you here. He talks about how you've got a young man who accepted responsibility, pleaded guilty in the middle of his murder trial, and provided a version of events which was accepted by the Crown. Then in those circumstances, um, yeah, he's just saying that they're the things that they think um, are reasons why Lachlan deserves some consideration in sentencing for a lower sentence. And one of the other things they talked about was, had Lachlan shown any remorse since the crime, since being at trial? And I think the inference was that he hasn't shown any direct remorse or expressed it openly to anyone. So I think that that was one of the negatives in Lachlan's case of wanting a shorter sentence. So I think it's not something they could claim that he had ever done that. Uh, yeah. Let me go up here, see if I can get you something from the prosecution side. Where's my... Hmm. Maybe I don't have it. Okay. So the prosecution talks about why he deserves to be sentenced in the like the higher range of his offending. And they talk about things like the destruction of Hannah's body, which is like desecration of her remains. And they saying that uh, this is one of the things that brings great pain to Hannah's family and friends because of the way her remains and her when she was alive were treated, um, stealing from them a moment to say goodbye, a moment for last words, things like that. Because what was left after the fire, like we heard in the other notes I was reading, 13 kilos was all that was left of Hannah. And they were not able to say goodbye. Um, Not only that, but the Lachlan's offending pushed onto the family an idea that she had left this world voluntarily. And this also furthers his offending because that's something that didn't need to happen. And it actually brings more pain to the family because if you could imagine, that's one idea they wake up to that morning after she is killed. Throughout the next couple of days, they then find out that no, this is not what happened. She did not leave this world on her own accord, that her life had actually been taken by the one person you'd just been spending 2 days with, trying to, you know, get over the death of your daughter and sort of find an answer to it. and he was there all along, and he's the one who caused all of this, all these people's pain, all these people who were upset over the loss of Hannah. It was all because of him. Yet he led you to believe for a period of time that she did it herself. So I think that does inflict a greater pain into the family, and maybe it should be looked at for higher sentencing. Let's see. They bring up this point that when he does kill Hannah, if it is in this situation like he describes, being in the house, they get into an argument. He does something by like manually strangling her. They bring up this point of he never calls anyone for help. He never talks to authorities. He doesn't call an ambulance. He doesn't try to get any help for Miss McGuire. And I think that is a good point too. They say in regards to that, but what he did do is he took a series of calculated steps in an attempt to conceal and destroy the remains of Hannah and his involvement in the murder. And they talk about how these actions are a motive of self-interest and self-preservation. Uh, yeah, including the plan to destroy her body and burn her in the car was a way of self-preservation and keeping his own interests above all others. Um, they also say that he also tried to include an innocent person, Mr. Benjamin O'Keefe, who unwittingly assisted in his plan to desecrate Hannah's remains. Drove her out to bushland. Lachlan did, and it's about 15 or so minute drive from where they started from. Lachlan takes that blowtorch, sets the fire to the vehicle with Hannah's body inside, makes a conscious choice to do that, and he watches it go up in flames. And at no point is he asking anyone for help or admitting to something is wrong. It's just constant trying to cover up his own actions. Yeah, steals from her too. Goes into her bank account on her phone, withdraws money from her bank account, and transfers it to him and her mother. No, no, he won't. Hey, Lux, how are you? Let me go back to here. Prosecution also contends that Lachlan Young has no remorse. And I think we covered it a little bit before, but has no remorse, concocts his false story, and to accompany that um, false story, he commits multiple other repeated acts to try and verify or make it real, for something that he has made up and trying to bring it into reality. The fact that he tried to damage and hurt Hannah's mother more by pretending that this was an S word and sending these vile, um, heartbreaking messages to Hannah's mom that I read out to you before. All these things should be taken into account. The prosecution says the text messages to Debbie McGuire show a special kind of cruelty. In our submission, Mrs. McGuire's response to her daughter becoming more desperate, seeking her to respond, all the while the offender is in possession of Hannah's phone. Hannah is deceased in a burnt out vehicle in Scarsdale, a fact well known to the defender at the time he's sending those messages to Hannah's mum. At the time of sending those messages, he transfers money to Hannah's mother and himself. Continuing his ruse, he feigns care and concern for Hannah and her whereabouts, even pretending to search for her. He goes further, accusing her friend of hiding Hannah from him, telling people that he will ruin this town if anything has happened to her. Again, all the while knowing where she is. He has what could be effectively described as a wake for her at his property. He has people over to his home supporting him in the believed S word of his girlfriend. So it takes a very sick individual to not only do the crime that Lachlan's accused of, but then have almost a party the day after at his home. Have a party. Rachel said, I think he sent those messages to her mum to hurt her parents for helping her out. They definitely seem like revenge. That's what it came across to me like that too. It's a way for him to get some sort of revenge. Hold on, let me check something. I just want to check how our friends in Queensland are going. They never reported that tornado, so I don't know if they ever were able to verify it. Oh, wow. Check this out, guys. This is the current warning map for Brisbane and northern New South Wales. These white ones in the box here, this means that is a supercell thunderstorm. And whenever you get that little white box that says, this thunderstorm is very dangerous, that means it is a supercell thunderstorm most of the time. But today, yes. So you got two, one down here on the border, and one up here near heading towards the Sunshine Coast. So there is craziness happening in Queensland right now. One of those storms, the one heading up near the Sunshine Coast, still showing a lot of rotation on radar, on the Doppler wind radar, still showing a lot of rotation in that storm. Already had one supposed tornado today, might have another. Kelly says, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Lux. Thank you. Let's see. Prosecution or the Crown alleges that Lachlan's offending was motivated by male entitlement, jealousy, rage, and it's expressive of the worst kind of male attributes or male attitudes towards women. It undermines the foundations of personal relationships and family and the trust in those institutions. They call it a rage fueled episode of violence. Lachlan caused to Miss Maguire a violent death. He then drove her body to a remote forest location and set her on fire. He disregarded her dignity whilst attempting to eradicate any evidence that might implicate him in the offending. He engaged in a series of acts to avoid responsibility and attempted to lay blame of the death of Hannah at her own feet, knowing full well what he had done. And yeah, so I agree. I think it takes a very sick individual to do the things I've described to you tonight on the show. It is of the highest order of offending, in my opinion. I'm not a judge, but that's just my opinion. So I hope that gave you an insight into what took place over those 2 days and the type of information that we got throughout, and gave you a bit of an insight into those 2 days of court. Sorry it took so long to get it to you. I hope it was interesting in some ways and an eye opener in others. In the condition, like to tell you about the type of conditions that Hannah had to live through before she was killed. So I love you guys very much. It's 5:30 here. I'm gonna get out of here for the night. I'll be back tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Saturday night. Saturday night. I hope you all had a great Halloween out there. Hope it was a good Halloween for you all. And I will be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll have some fun tomorrow night. Yep. All you guys have a good night. I love you all. We'll do some more on Gregory Lynn at some point too. I have a whole bunch of stuff on Gregory Lynn that we have to get through as well. Have a great Halloween. Don't eat too much candy. Don't eat too much Halloween candy. And oh, Orange Cat is here. Hey, Orange Cat. Look, an orange cat. Um, I'll see you tomorrow. Orange Cat says we have to go. He probably wants his dinner. Think he's hungry. All right. Peace out. Hey, remember you want more information from the courts? You want to get a better inside look into these court cases like what I brought you tonight? A more in-depth look than a lot of the media bring you? Subscribe and hit that subscribe button and the thumbs up button, which helps me out. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Leather jacket feeling cold against your skin. Running through the chaos, letting all the sin. Temptation in a bottle, ready for the night. Craving for the thrill, it's time to ignite. Dark desires burning bright, echoes in the